Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time here, welcome. This is Essential Patience and I am Patience. In today's video, we'll be looking at a new study that came in just for the new year. And remember to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. So what are my expectations for this list? In New York, California, probably Virginia, and a lot of northern states. Also Massachusetts, District of Columbia is not a state, and maybe Hawaii on there. I used to live in Maryland, which it was kind of expensive. I don't know if you'll make top 10 expensive, but the state of Washington might be in there as well as Oregon. Let's go and see how many of these I got right. Anything above 100 means that it is more expensive. So if it is at 110, it's probably like 10% more expensive. So it's using an index system. Coming in at number 10 is Vermont, which I really did not guess that it was that expensive. But the cost of living index is 117, which is well above the 100 for the US average. The cost of groceries is at 109.2. The cost of housing is at 136.2. The utilities index is 119. Transportation is at 114.2, and health is at 99.3, which is below that of the US, and miscellaneous is at 104.3. You can see that out of the 7 index being calculated, Vermont is above in all except for one. We're making it very expensive. So in Vermont, the cost of living is overall 17% higher than the national average, with the average family single home costing about $299,998. It says that the average rent is about $980 per month, and the median household income in Vermont is $111,095, while the living wage, which is basically the wage you're given to be able to live in Vermont, is about $96,665. I'm guessing that's for the family. Coming in at number 9 for the most expensive state to live in 2023 is Rhode Island. In fact, the cost of living index is at 117.2, with the groceries being at 107.7, housing at 121.7, utilities at 127.6, transportation at 107.6, health being at 105.8, and miscellaneous being at 118.6. We can note that in Rhode Island, the cost of housing is 21% above the national average, and with a typical family home, single family home, costing about $372,809. To rent a 2-bedroom apartment, you're looking at $1,043. Also in the States, it has a very high cost of utilities, with the average costing $404.21 a month. The median family income in Rhode Island is $108,105, while the living wage is at $95,005. Coming in at number 8 is Connecticut, with the cost of living index being 121.6, meaning that it is 21.6% above the national average. The groceries index is 106.4. The housing index is 134.6. Utilities is at 132.4. Transportation is at 111.1. Health is at 111.3, and miscellaneous at 117.5. It goes on to say that the average single family home costs $318,096. To rent a 2-bedroom apartment, you're looking on average $1,177. Median family income is at $120,379. That is above the living wage of Connecticut, which is $99,955. But the state also has a high unemployment rate of 4.9%, which compared to the United States, which is about 3.7%, is pretty high. And number 7 is my home state of Maryland. I wasn't sure if it was going to appear, but apparently it did, because the cost of living index is at 124. And let me tell you, you can fill it all up in the grocery store and when you're looking to rent. The cost of groceries is at 110.4, housing at 165.9, utilities at 105.1, transportation at 107.6, health at 82.8, which is pretty good, and miscellaneous at 105.2. So we can see it seems that housing is the highest. And being a part of the DMV, a lot of people who can't afford to rent in DC or it's just crowded, they tend to come to Maryland. Cost of living in Maryland is 24% higher than the national average, and with housing being one of the biggest one, being 66% above the national average. The typical single family home costs around $366,581. However, despite the housing costs, and with the second highest home affordability, with 57.16% of residents having income that would support them having their own home. In fact, renting a 2-bedroom apartment is at $1,041 a month, and healthcare costs are second lowest in the nation, which I think is a good benefit. Also, the median household income for a family of 4 is $130,252, and that is more than the $100,959 that would be considered their living wage. In fact, Maryland has the 5th lowest poverty level in the nation, with the 9.1% of residents living below the poverty line. Next is Alaska, which, thinking about it, the cost of living in Alaska is pretty high. The cost of living index is at 127.1, with groceries being 134.5 and housing being at 126.9, utilities at 154.8, transportation at 109.9, health at 154.2, and miscellaneous at 114. In fact, Alaska is the 6th most expensive state in the United States. The cost of living is 27.1% above the national average. Housing costs are 26.9% higher, and a single family home costs around $300,592, whilst renting a 2-bedroom apartment will cost you about $1,201. Also, the groceries are the 2nd most expensive in the nation, being 35% higher than the national average, and the median household income for a family in Alaska is $101,965, and this is above $90,080 living wage. It is said that Alaska consistently ranks among the worst states to live in, mainly due to poor educational outcomes, high levels of violent crimes, and low levels of opportunities. That is something I did not know. Moving into number 5, the 5th most expensive states in the United States to live in is Oregon. I am not surprised on that one. With the cost of living index at 130.1 and the groceries being at 107.8, housing at 172.6, utilities at 90.2, transportation at 125.9, health at 115.7, and miscellaneous at 115.6. With this, we know that it is again the 5th most expensive state to live in, whilst utilities are among the cheapest in the country. Oregon has one of the highest housing costs. Typically, a single family home costs around $447,968. Home affordability is one of the lowest in the nation, and while it is less than a quarter of the population can afford a new home in Oregon. In fact, renting a 2-bedroom apartment will cost on average $1,185, and utilities on the average household is at $333.27 a month. The median household income is at $100,533, and the living wage is at $96,003, which is very close. Moving on to number 4 is good old Massachusetts, which makes its appearance with a cost of living index at 135, groceries at 119.3, housing at 177.6, utilities at 111.1, healthcare at 118.8, transportation at 111.3, and miscellaneous at 116.5. In fact, we can see that the cost of living is 35% above the national average, and the housing in Massachusetts is 77% more than the national average. In fact, the typical single family home is costing about $518,203, and renting a 2-bedroom apartment is on average $1,360. And the rents in Boston is triple that of the state average, meaning that you are looking to spend a lot of money. In fact, groceries are 19% higher. This is for the entire state compared to the national average. And looking at health insurance, it's at 18% more. But even with Massachusetts being such a high cost area, only 9% of the residents live below the poverty line. The median household income in Massachusetts is $140,000. $309 for a family of 4. The living wage for a family of 4 is $121,414, and the minimum wage in the States is $14.25 as of the filming of this video. Coming in at number 3 is California. I know if you thought it was number 1, it's number 3, because the cost of living index is at 142.2, groceries at 113.7, housing at 201.9, utilities at 124.3, transportation at 131.7, health at 110.7, and miscellaneous at 110.3. Its cost of living is 42.2% above the national average, and California has one of the highest gas prices. Transportation costs are second highest in the nation. In fact, housing are also typically twice as much as the national average, with a typical single-family home costing about $683,996. And I know that is not in the Los Angeles area. Home ownership in California is the second lowest in the nation, with the average 2-bedroom apartment rent costing $1,614. I am sure that is not in San Francisco, because that cost runs much higher in major metropolitan areas such as Los Angeles and San Francisco. Both of those areas have some of the highest rents in the nation. The median household income in California is $105,232 for a family of 4, whilst the living wage is $110,255 a year, meaning that over 50% of the people are not making a living wage. Let's move on to number 2, and that will be New York. Nope, it's not number 1. The state of New York has a cost of living index of 148.2, the groceries being 118.4, housing being 230.1, utilities at 99.8, transportation at 108.7, health at 102.5, and miscellaneous at 113.7. We can see that New York being the second most expensive state, especially being that New York City is very expensive, with the cost of living being 48.2% above the national average. Housing in New York is the second most expensive in the United States, costing 2.3 times more than the national average. Trying to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in New York will cost you on average $1,717, whilst if it's just in New York City, you are looking at about $5,874 for a comparable unit. In fact, the typical single-family home in New York is $373,800. New York also has the 7th lowest housing affordability rate. Only a quarter of its residents are able to afford a house, and New York State has the lowest rate of home ownership in the nation. The median household income for a family of 4 is $111,054, and the living wage is $110,255 for a family of 4. And now, giving it up for the number 1 most expensive state in the United States is Hawaii. Okay, Hawaii is very expensive. The cost of living index is at a whopping 193.3%, meaning it is almost twice as much as the US national average. The cost of groceries has a really high index of 152.9%, because a lot of things has to be imported into those islands. And housing is at 315. Housing is over 3 times higher than the US national average, and utilities is at 164.2, transportation at 133.7, health at 115.3, and miscellaneous at 126.7. So taking a moment to analyze that, the cost of living in Hawaii is over 93% higher than the national average. In fact, Hawaii has the highest cost across all index except for health care, and a typical family home is going for $730,511. Only 29% of the residents can afford to buy a home in the state, and one of the lowest levels in the country. The median cost to rent a 2-bedroom apartment is at a whopping $1,651. And if you go to the island of, let me say this correctly, Honolulu, you are renting a 2-bedroom apartment, it is costing about $3,500. And groceries cost 50% more in Hawaii than the rest of the nation. Hawaii has the 4th lowest poverty rate, and the median household income is at $118,223 for a family of 4. This is not too significantly higher than the living wage, which is at $107,702 per year. This is the list. Was I shocked to see any states on here? And you can see a lot of these states are like up north compared to down south. Coast to coast is very expensive. States that I did not expect to be on this list were Vermont, Rhode Island, Connecticut. That was it. Every other state kind of makes sense. And with that, I'm gonna bring this video to a close. Thank you for watching and coming to learn with me. Like, comment, and subscribe, and leave the comment section. Do you live in any of these states? Have you moved to a different state and think that was expensive? Let me know in the comment section and I'll respond. Ring the notification bell because I post 2 videos a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. Come on over and see what we're discussing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.